ICT, Anambra's failed record in crime fighting would not have been possible. In Anambra State, we are already looking beyond the present. We have set our sights on the future. That's why the State Ministry of Education has embarked on a revolutionary laptop acquisition scheme for all our teachers that will ensure that every teacher in Anambra State owns a laptop. The scheme comes with a 9-month training package that will inculcate crucial computer skills in our teachers. These teachers will in turn impart these skills on the pupils and the students, thereby preparing them to compete in a world that is essentially driven by a fast-paced development in information technology. That is how serious we take e-governance in Anambra State. It is gradually permeating every aspect of our lives, including the educational sector. In doing this, we are often reminded of the words of the icon African-American civil rights leader, Malcolm X, who said that education, I quote, "Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today," unquote. My advice. With your kind permission, I will proceed to distill from our experience in Anambra State what might constitute the immediate priorities in e-government. Given the drop on the federally allocated revenues, states should invest in a robust ICT infrastructure that will boost their IGR collection in all areas. This should also be the model for the federal government through the Ministry of Finance and through other relevant agencies. States should partner with the private sector to devise the means of building shared platforms in order to bring down the cost of and inject maximum efficiency. States should embark on aggressive deployment of cheap but revolutionary ICT solutions like hotspots, laptops, and other applications across towns, markets, hospitals, schools, and eventually villages to ensure a smooth takeoff of ICT. Evolve a robust ICT policy that will encourage the discovery and deployment of local talents and the inculcation of ICT skills in our youths. At the moment, we are testing the waters in this regard with the Technology Incubation Center in Nnewi. We are simply cashing in on the advantage of Nnewi, which is a well-known hub for technology innovation and manufacturing. Indeed, our use of ICT in Anambra State is so diverse that an attempt to recount them here would be unwise. Nevertheless, it might be necessary that its effective use has greatly improved our data bank management and launched a potent offensive against ghost workers through the issuance of ID cards, biometrics, what have you. Through that, enormous leakages have been sealed in the state civil service. We have also effectively instilled prudent land management through the conduct of geospatial surveys, GIS. Over the next few months, we will have a fully functional and well-populated database, complete with a dynamic one-stop-shop service portal to drive our governance and economic programs. Likely challenges. The likely challenges to a smooth takeoff of e-government in most parts of Nigeria are many and varied. The most prominent, however, seems to be the presence of vested interests. Some elements within and outside the government have always made frantic efforts to resist change and scuttle such best laid out plans. The reasons for this range from lack of skill and motivation to learn, focus on benefiting from the lack of transparency which ICT brings to bear on governance, and plain lack of understanding of what ICT is about. So successful as e-government programs must mitigate against these challenges. Conclusion. In conclusion, I urge all practitioners to continue to educate our leaders and innovate around the use of ICT to achieve their vision. In Anambra, our aggressive pursuit of our vision and mission statements through an efficient use of ICT has attracted an inflow of investments to the tune of over $2.4 billion in Anambra within the past 1 year. I was expecting a round of applause. The whole idea is to use government machinery to channel private sector interests to the advantage of the citizens by making the environment conducive for investment. Our success in this quest has been very glaring, but we are hopeful of improving on our best performance. I wish to invite everyone here to Anambra State to witness the ongoing change and take a stab at the promising investment climate that we have entrenched. I will ensure those of you who are ready to come now will enjoy the first mover advantage. It is on this note that I hereby declare the 2015 EPAN/CBN organized eGovernment Summit open and wish you all a successful event. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen. It was a wonderful presentation coming from one of Nigeria's forward-looking governors. Thank you again. You may now resume your seats. Well,
the special guest of honor, His Excellency Chief Dr. Willie Obiano, the Executive Governor of Anambra State, the Chairman of the opening ceremony, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, the Governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, all other protocols observed. It is my honor to congratulate you all for the success of the opening ceremony of the 2015 eGovernment Summit. Our special thanks go to the Executive Governor of Anambra State, His Excellency Chief Willie Obiano, for sparing time out of his busy schedule to grace this August summit and for his backroom support to ensure the success of this program. We say thank you, sir. Worthy of sincere appreciation is the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, for supporting and providing an avenue for this platform. This is a testimony of your poise for vibrant and stabilized financial systems in Nigeria. As you all know, organizing this type of events are generally the result of close collaboration among several institutions and individuals. It is my great pleasure to express on behalf of the organizers and on my own behalf a deep appreciation for the support and encouragement provided by such individuals and institutions. This event is a collaborative effort, a joint venture of the Financial System Strategy FSS 2020 and all its implementing institution with the Electronic Payment Providers Association of Nigeria and all our members. Thank you to the Central Bank, NDIC, NICDA, NIPS, Visa, MasterCard, InterSwitch, Galaxy Backbone for sponsoring the program. The team has done an incredible job. I'll be failing in my duty if I do not underline a very important role played and the tireless effort made by Engineer Oluwatoyin Jokosinimi, the head program FSS 2020, under the leadership of the amiable DG of Operations. It has been a real pleasure to work with these fine and capable gentlemen and ladies. I'm highly appreciative of all other guests, amongst who are representatives of top government agencies, captains of industries, entrepreneurs, non-government agencies, representatives of public-private partnership agencies, academicians, amongst others, who has created time out of their busy schedule in order to lay down the foundation and provide the context for deliberation during these 2 days of the summit. Our sincere thanks go to all the delegates who are the reason for this event. This is a unique opportunity to learn from the world's best experts. I want to implore you all to maximize the advantage posed by the remaining sections of this program, so that at the end we will be able to agree on concrete outcomes that will serve as model for application for e-government and the Financial Vision 2020 of Nigeria. Finally, we invite all stakeholders to join EPAN to push the frontiers of e-government and e-payments, in addition to banks and switches, who are foundation members. We invite mobile money operators, e-government agencies such as NEXT, NITSDAM, etc., specialized providers of electronic government platform. And our sincere thanks is also go to the permanent secretaries that took out their time to join us here today. Thank you very much. And to the DJ of Smedan, thank you very much, sirs. Thank you. And wish all of us a beautiful deliberation after this opening section. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Rega. Wow, the hall is still full. Thank you. I'm actually tempted to tell you the end of that wise man's story, but I wouldn't. I would rather tell that story if the hall is this full tomorrow evening. Yes, I will share that story. It actually ended. And if you're interested in anthem. Stanza of the national anthem. O God of creation, direct our noble cause, guide our leaders aright, help our youth with truths to know, in love and honesty to grow, and leading just and true, great lofty heights attain, to build a nation where peace and justice shall reign. Amen. Please remain standing as we let the Executive Governor and the Deputy Governor and the gentlemen and ladies of the first row take their leave outside for the group photograph.
Yes, exactly.
How are you here with you?
Oh, good.
All right, sir. So far.
It's basically using ICT to be able to do the business of government. And I was invited as a special guest, and I came to share the Anambra experience with people at the seminar. The seminar is for 2 days, and part of the experience we're sharing is with the things we are doing in ICT. We can improve our internally generated revenue, plug all the loopholes through ICT. We keep database of people to help us find crime in Anambra. Schools, I'm sure part of the laptop policy for teachers in Anambra State, to make them e-compliant, many things that they are doing. E-business, e-economy, e-whatever is where the world is headed. And it's good that other government securities.
How satisfied are you about the e-governance across states?
When I will talk about my state, I don't know what's happening.
You gave advice to states.
Well, it does help them to grow their internally generated revenue.
You said that
and it's important that if they are still doing manual process of collection of taxes, then there are a lot of delays. But if you do e-government, payment systems, then the money becomes the bank account real time.
So how do you work on Anambra State?
Well, what we did in my first 100 days is that we have a blueprint in governance,
And then what do we want to take away from here? What are the objectives of the session? And there are just 2 of them. And we're going to see that. The objectives of the session. And then, once you familiarize with the national e-payment and cashless policy, it will amaze you that different people say different things and think different things about this policy. But we need to put it back on track and see what exactly is it and why we wasn't in it. And we go to the subject matter, the reason for this session, government collections. Couldn't have been at the very time to talk about that. And e-payments within the context of government collections, and then we look at the federal government of Nigeria as a case study for e-collection. And we conclude, and do the next important thing, which is launch. So, the 5 of us here would not want to stand between you and lunch, and so we're going to be very, very committed to giving the time. So, let's just get started on the first level. The context of this is that many public sector organizations in Nigeria are finding it challenging or are contending with many issues in implementing the national policy on e-payments. And the things we're looking at addressing, which many people need to get to swim with, is why this policy. And I think sometimes we just over-assume that there's a clear understanding of an initiative and so everyone is expected to queue behind it. But we've since learned that in social change there's a difference between coercion and convention. And that when people don't understand things, they just swim along for swimming's sake, and you are hardly going to have any impact. So why this policy? What is our policy? And our public sector organizations find it difficult to take this on. Why is it difficult for the inherent benefits to be so presented for people to want to get it done? Or are there other issues we're dealing with that present itself as a natural barrier to that? The second thing is for us to remind ourselves that there can just be an easy framework that can guide what we're doing. And that can easily serve as a reference point at any point in time. And so we're not going to be heavy on data, we're just going to make it as light as possible, so that no one here is left with an excuse. I don't know how much of the people who are supposed to operate this are here, but for those here, we need to make a point out of it. We can't live here. We do not desire to live here. To continue to make it business as usual. And I expect at the end of these 2 days, there are going to be ways and approaches that we're going to all be committed to just say, let's make things work. We've done enough of the talking. Let's just make sure that things work. So, let's go to that. What is this national policy? And it's a large audience, so to say. But if you're not seeing a copy of this document released to NPSV 2020, that's the National Payment System Vision 2020, it actually encapsulates what the payment vision for this country is. By show of hands, is there anyone who has not seen this document? Let me just have a fair idea. The National Payment System Vision 2020 document. Is there anyone who hasn't seen it? Can I see your hand? Okay, please give me an idea of the size of the problem we're dealing with. I mean, more than half of the people sitting here don't even have a reference point for what is supposed to be a national policy that's supposed to drive transformation and an acceleration of the development of our national economy. And I've got a fair idea of where the challenge then may be when we expect to see benefits that we don't seem to be working hard at making sure that's actually occurs. But this document, well, I need to make a promise and I need to commit myself to it. I'm sure I'll commit the organizers to make it available to as many of us as are here. The soft copy exists of the NPSV 2020 document, and I'm committing the organizers to make it available to everyone if you make your emails available, so that you have it's such a huge thing that is presented so easily. And what that says to us is there's a reason why the country is embarking on the transformation of the economy using the electronic system. Any economy and its advancement is measured by the development of its payment system. And if Nigeria wants to emerge as a global economy in the year 2020, which is just for a few months away, then we need to get some things right. And that document just gives a roadmap and what we need to do. And it's so easy to then answer that. Why the policy? It's just because it's going to help us accelerate the development of this economy. What needs to be done? And to just also make it a bit simpler, the way you think about infrastructure, road infrastructure, and other infrastructure, you need to begin to think of payment infrastructure that way. The way you think about power infrastructure as being necessary for the development of a nation, you need to begin to think of the payment infrastructure. So in your own mind as a stakeholder, you need to have a view of what the payment infrastructure means and how exactly it can affect economic development of the country. And so who needs to do what? Who are the critical stakeholders? I think to that extent the critical stakeholders are in this room. But if you're not aware up to now, then you need to be aware that it's everyone, no one is left out. And that's why over the past couple of years we've been hearing about financial inclusion, which suggests that no one is to be left out. And so the critical stakeholders, the financial sector, and everyone, so it's about payments, inflows and outflows, and generally the cycle of trade. So who needs to do what when? And all of those things are there. And this is one of the key milestones, the sensitization and awareness, so that these can be further drilled down. And taking on from that, we need to look at proposals talking about government revenue collections. We're linking this to national payments, the vision itself, and what's supposed to achieve. And you know, without payers, there cannot be collections. And that's just the way it goes. Somebody needs to pay for someone to collect. That's just as simple as it goes. That's just the cycle of trade, exchange of value. But we're narrowing this to government revenue collections. And we just want to look at a few things. What are the issues with government collections? Yeah. Is it a case of unwilling payers? Is it really a case of unwilling payers? Or is it a case of unwilling collectors? You may be surprised that can be an issue in itself. That you think you have so much and you're not even bothered with collecting the things that look little in themselves. Or is it a case of both? That there's an unwilling payer and there's also an unwilling collector. This is to help us understand what we think the problem is, or to be able to dimension what the problem is. Is possibility of collections don't see any reason to collect anything. There's just no reason to collect it. Because whether you collect it or not, you get paid anyway. Whether you collect it or not, it's business as usual anyway. So what happens? Or is it just that the payment processes that are in place themselves are tedious, cumbersome, and unfriendly? And that is what is giving us concerns about government revenue collections. Or on another hand, is it about uncoordinated approaches? And if you've been in the news recently, you'll have learned that some local governments have been told to get their people off the roads. I don't think there's any one of us here who hasn't experienced that. You are traveling and all of a sudden some people just emerge from the bush and they put things on the road and don't know how people collect receipts for those kind of payments. And even if you collect receipts, I don't know how you want to validate those kind of receipts. Payments you make right in the middle of the bush. So apply uncoordinated collection systems and approaches. Is that what the problem is? Whether they're manual or not manual. Is that what the problem is? Or is it about an estimation, underestimation of the possible potential when government takes the business of revenue collection very seriously? These are posers. And these are the kind of things that this eminent panel will be speaking to. Because we're saying, understanding the problem is what's going to help us and lead us to designing systems. Without understanding the problem we want to deal with, we're just going to be academic theoreticians as it were. We just keep talking. But we want to go beyond talk. And there just can be so many other things. And I don't think there's any better time to address this issue than now, when we all realize that there's a cash crunch. Right? And in the news, it's about the number of months people have not been paid. And I'm saying to myself, so before now, what was the source of the payments? So will this in itself be a natural way to force us to do this on the surface, and also providing a veritable platform to address that? Another bit of it, deploying solutions, is we don't anticipate change, and so we don't manage it. We don't anticipate change and we don't manage it. Like I mentioned earlier, we think once we just mention it, just going to happen automatically. And then we see that we're hardly ever better than where we started from. So, a quick run through of what the benefits are or the approach rates. I know you will have seen something there that says foreign is not necessarily better. The experiences other people have gone through other times is not exactly what we're going to work with there. And for your information, there are different initiatives ongoing, national initiatives on e-payment and collections. And there's one particularly on government flows, which I chair, which is under the purview of the Central Bank of Nigeria. And this says outbound and inbound payments of government. Let's have a framework that guides how people can go about it. And the benefits are not hidden. And we can easily relate to those benefits there. One of them, which I see, is you can crash operations from being a 35 hours a week organization to 168 hours because there's a 24/7 access. And what we're doing is trying to drive into the social ecosystem. This study here is about the urgent collection, and I think quite a number of us also represent the federal MPs. In this slide, you'll have an overview of what that means, what has happened, who the initiative owner is, coordinated by the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, working with the Central Bank and other payment providers in the ecosystem, and what the benefits are. I think we can easily run through that. And let me just summarize. I think we'll have time, and then we'll be able to take some of the other points in there. What are we taking away from this? Your revenue collection in Nigeria can be significantly improved through electronic collection. There's no doubt about that. It is proven, it is established. Number two thing is, you need to be trying to get started. Review where you are today. You don't need to be intimidated. If there are things you've done and they've not exactly turned out, it's not the end of the journey. More importantly, there must be clear ownership within your environment of operation. There must be clear ownership. There's nothing, when it's everybody's problem, then it's nobody's problem. And last but not least, the time to do it is now. Thank you very much.
Atande. Just to summarize this summary, it is clear that Atande has highlighted a few issues which he considers pertinent for the continued growth of e-payment systems, particularly in the collection of government revenue. I noticed, or rather, in my opinion, the focus. Let me just focus on two things I picked from this presentation. One was the lack of incentives to implement the existing policy. And it is a very common setback in policy implementation. Oftentimes, when we are developing policies, we fail to recognize that adequately, that as incentivized individuals, something has to be in there for us at all times. Even when it is obvious that it's for our benefit, it might also be clear that that benefit might not be easily within the grasp of everybody, and we can work against fine policies. All right. And of course, it talks about infrastructure. Even though over the years, the delivery of infrastructure for this very important area has continued to go down in terms of cost. There's a lot of intermediaries that have come in as a result of improvement in technology. There's also some basic infrastructures that go beyond the control of individual operators in the industry, and they are important. And I think that we have people in the audience here, from the policy makers to implementers, who are listening and we're able to take this. Let me open the floor to the discussants. We'll probably get the microphone closer to you guys. Where those of us who don't sing in church choir. Let me begin with Chinaya.
Thank you very much. My director, thank you. Thank you for giving InterSwitch the opportunity to be here and to speak on this matter. It's a matter very dear to revenue. That's why we come up with IGR, internal generated revenue. So every state government, all aspects of government are looking inwards to what can be done to raise revenue. And I must say, Jeremy did a good job at the introduction. And during his introduction, he made a comment. And he was talking about, he referred a lot to the payment of salaries. That many states have not paid salaries. But I was just thinking, IGR is not only meant to be used to pay salaries. As a nation, it is supposed to go beyond payment of salaries to providing social amenities for the populace. That is why you can get the right response from those that need to pay, that you're collecting the revenues from. So if you look at the page 4 of his presentation, he asked a few questions. What are the issues? And one of them, he said, can it be the case of unwilling payers? And I wrote here, I said, no. I don't think people are naturally unwilling to pay, when things are the way they should be. So that means that whatever we are doing, if you are looking at designing and implementing an electronic platform, that means that you must take into consideration all the stakeholders in the ecosystem. You must look at where the pain point is, what is relevant to them, what is value to each person in the ecosystem. The issue is that most times we find ourselves jumping into things without analyzing properly, and therefore you can design wrongly. But if you come up up with a concept of collection in any sector, because there are various vertical markets, and they are not all the same, although, like he said, there could be similarities and commonalities, but not all sectors are the same. So in every sector, you have to look at the various stakeholders, look at what brings value to them and give it to them. So can it be the case of unwilling payers? I said to myself, no. So long as they see the relevance, you have to make it very clear for the payers. The relevance has to be there. There needs to be a communication of value to the one that is paying. There needs to be reasonability. Maybe it might be in cost or what it is that is paying. It can also be convenience. That is very key. Because in all that we do, today, like he said, we are used to living our lives in a certain way. Most of us are used to operating without phones. Almost everything we do, we wrap in our palms. Today you have your bank in your palm, you do everything in your palm. So what that means that in designing a collection platform, there must be an extension of channels, making multiple options of payments so that everyone will be able to pay, at his convenience. That's what is very important. When you do that, the payers will no longer be unwilling because you brought value and you made it convenient for them to pay. Can it be unwilling workforce? Maybe. That's what I wrote. It might be unwilling workforce, as the case may be. And a lot of things give rise to someone being unwilling. He mentioned, unwilling or motivated in terms of workforce, it might be there. Once again, these are stakeholders in that whole ecosystem. So when you are designing it, what is it that is value to that workforce? You must take it into consideration. Maybe it is training. Training, because for those that have been working for a long time, they're used to doing things in a certain way. And people typically do not own up to not being able to learn afresh. So there must be a way that you must get everyone up to speed to appreciate the new technology and the processes that need to go on. So those are some of the things. He's looking at me very seriously. I hope the mic can come back because it's quite an interesting topic and there are quite a lot to do. But again, in terms of the platform, it is important that the platform is such that will bring value to the one that is implementing the policy. That is the government that says, look, this is what we want to achieve. So for every government parastatal, they want a platform that will deliver to them visibility to all collections, no reconciliation issues. They want at the end of every time to be able to have data, or information that can help them to make decisions. So they want to know who is paying, where did the person pay, what is the person paying, what is the person paying for, and all that. So once that is done, once again, it helps the whole ecosystem. As the mic comes round, I can speak a lot more. There are a lot of potentials in this area. Thank you.
To be able to expose some traditional services that could be potential revenue sources for government as well, right? For instance, we spend a lot of money, generating funds for normal activities in government services, right? They are not necessarily,
we're a mobile payments company licensed by the Central Bank of Nigeria. I also wear a second hat as a representative of AMPO, which is the Association of Licensed Mobile Payment Operators. A few of my colleagues are here in the audience as well. Their presentation, while very brief, definitely was information packed. I was listening to him and I said to myself that every single bullet that he actually went through is probably an hour conversation on his own anyway, but we don't have that time. We know we're holding up lunch, so I just picked a couple of points that maybe I want to buttress or touch on slightly. He asked the question about the idea that is it potentially an unwilling payer
or unwilling customer could be one of the issues. Blake Prentice, which touched on this a little bit. I want to also touch on it, but for a different reason. Again, I represent a mobile payments company, and AMPO, and we're sort of the new entrant in this electronic payment space in Nigeria. Mr. Fatou is here from the Banking and Payments Department, who has supported and licensed us. And Central Bank has done a stronger job of actually promoting those mobile payment channels as well, so people understand that it's an option and that we're a viable and safe way to do it. But going back to the question that Jeremy asked, what came to mind was that most certainly people want to make payments, but making those payments have to be convenient and have to be safe and it has to be accessible. This is where you start to talk about channels. How are they making channels? He had a slide with the circles and different options for payments there. All those options are very important because the truth is, each community or each person or each locale will have a different preference for how certain things are done. The online or the mobile option for payments are there. I want to give a view that may not be shared by many, but I think while those are viable and those are strong and continue to grow, it will be gradual, right? Today, people still want to leave their house or leave their shop and go make, let's say the government payment of 5,000 naira or 1,000 naira or 250 naira. People still want to pay some cash. This is where mobile payments, agency banking, mobile money agents come into play, and it's a very important thing for us to include on our list of options for people there. Agents are the convenience store, the mom and pop shop around the corner from your home, or your school tuck shop, where people can go and make their payments. These are known quantities in the community. They're probably able to explain certain things that the individual may not know or needs to know to complete the payment. And they also keep things comfortable. These agents, through the companies that they represent, are plugged into the formal financial system. All the audit trail that we're speaking about is still there. All the conveniences of knowing what is happening in one region versus another is still there. Very, very important aspect for us to include. I also wanted to touch on another point. Again, I guess it was reiterated a few times that this is a conversation about revenue collection for the government. But in design and implementation of any system, any kind of payment system, we should be thinking about both ways, right? There's a collection side, but also there's payments and there's the disbursements. There's conditional payments the government has talked about doing where, unemployed youth, for example, receive 5,000 naira a month. Those are all payment scenarios that must be thought through and definitely factored into any design we're making here. Our old age pensioners are still standing in line, and unfortunately people are passing away collecting money. These things can be done more conveniently. People have telephones, everybody has a mobile phone today. Why can they not receive their money, the alert in their home, and walk around the corner to the nearby mobile payments agent, mobile money agent, and collect their cash? There are so many things we can do on both on the collection and disbursement side that is important for us to keep in mind and think about. I'm not going to repeat much more of what anyone else has said, but maybe I'll wait for the mic to come around my way. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm wearing a very big shoe here this afternoon, and it is not my will. I'm representing the Executive Director in charge of Technology and Operations from Nigeria Interbank Settlement System PLC. And having to speak last is a bit complex, but a few things that I want to draw from what Jeremy said. He talked about the policy. We are discussing implementing payment system for government. And I want to bring it to our consciousness that this policy was designed not to leave anybody out. But unfortunately, some set of people are deliberately leaving themselves out. And I'm talking about the other financial institutions. If you look at the graph, you'll see that the CBN is there to maintain and ensure that this policy survives. There are processors, there are switches, there are banks, there are mobile money payment organizations, there are aggregators, and there are OFIs. But if you look at the analysis that we have, we realize that in most of the cases, in most of the implementations, the other financial institutions are leaving themselves out. Maybe not because of their own fault, but because of the what is required in participating in implement. Maybe the financial requirements or the cost of the security that they need to put in place. But that was not the intention, and I think if you do a rough estimate here of who is representing the microfinance bank, will be disappointed at the number. Is there anybody representing the microfinance bank? Nobody. And that is something that we have to look at and correct, because a lot of money is out there in the micro, in these microfinance banks. The minimum that each of them have as customers is 10,000 customers, and we have to tap into that. I just said let me bring that up. The other thing that I want to bring up is from the experience that we've had recently with this change that President Buhari has brought. We get requests from organizations, government organizations, asking us to please come and assist. And when you get there, they will tell you, see, I have 20 proposals. I don't know what to do. Who is who? How can I choose from these proposals? Because everybody is coming to them, we can do this, we can double your IGR in 2 days, we can deploy this for you for free, we can give you this for lunch. But the point is, because we are here and we are discussing it, we have to know the role players, and in deciding and deciding which platform, which service to sign on to, we have to do what I would call setting our objectives. What do we want to achieve as an organization? And then we should not forget that e-payment, yes, we call it e-payment, it is not just e-payment, there's e-collection, there's e-verification. So if you have to set your objective, are you interested in boosting your revenue collection? Yes. If that is yes, it forms part of your decision-making tool. Is it to improve your process? Is it to cut corruption? Or is it just that you are doing it because you are doing it? Or do you want to be able to link a payer to a payment? What are the things? And when we are having these discussions, normally, unfortunately, people are misunderstanding this issue of knowing who is making payments. In the church on Sunday, my pastor, may God forgive me, was preaching and saying that the Antichrist is coming. And I said to myself, why? I was waiting for him to continue. And then he did continue. He said, we should not look at Nigeria now, that there is the National Identity Management System. I said, yes. And he said there is the BVN. I said, yes. But the BVN is linking the BVN and the identity management to Antichrist, saying that very soon people will not be able to do banking or buy anything without the BVN. True, people will not be able to make transaction because of lack of BVN, but it is not because it is the Antichrist. It is because the economy has to know who is doing what. Imagine somebody in Bank A taking loan and going to Bank B to deposit the money and leaving large.
Okay.
Meanwhile, he's owing money in Bank B. So, apart from setting our objectives, we have to know that we have to know who is making the payment, and then we have to set the set of functionalities that we have, so that we will be able to make decisions based on facts, based on actual facts, not because we just want to be in the flow and then let people know that we are doing payment. I hope the mic comes around.
We will have time to take a few questions. Okay, we'll open up for a few questions. Just 1 minute. If you have a question, go straight to it. Okay, just 2 questions. One from this side.
I worked for government. I just retired from Federal Ministry of Land, Sustainable Urban Development as a director. And I found very interesting the idea that we focus. So my question is not a question, but just a comment. Very small. I find it very interesting because oftentimes the private sector has not taken this kind of decision to come into government and begin to tell government how they can do something better. As it were, it's been patriotic for this private sector to join hands with the central bank and begin to think how we could do something better in the government. The area he mentioned issues, and he talked about, is there unwilling payer? Is it unmotivated workforce? Maybe you from the private sector may not be able to bring that into focus. The those of us who have been there will say of a truth. When you are sending somebody to carry a food from a market, a restaurant to somebody, and he has not eaten, there is temptation. But the truth about it is that there are organizations that make revenue and input money into the cover of government that is not taken care of. So I believe in the study that I believe in the study that
Thank you. Your point is well taken. Motivation or the lack of it. Thank you.
My name is Emmanuel Obine, and I work with eTransact International PLC. I just have a few additions to make to the discourse. And we've been talking about channels, options through which persons who want to pay can make this payment, from the mobile payment angle to designing effective platforms that can actually carry out this collection for us. However, do we even know those who are eligible to pay these taxes? There is a huge absence of data to even identify the persons who are eligible to pay. So if we as a nation cannot set up certified digital identities for those who are meant to pay, how do we even establish those who are meant to pay? How do you even project and plan based on the figures? If you say for the informal sector, for instance, you have to pay 50 naira daily, who are these persons? So if you have that figure in place, you can say that my expected revenue generation output is X amount. Okay. But we don't have that data. So I think we need to work with the BVN that the CBN has introduced, and also the National Identity Management System. Okay. And then states also need to emulate the Anambra State example, where they're inviting persons to come and help them build these platforms. So digital identity is a very essential part for increasing.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. I think I'm General and the thanks for coming, and truly appreciate your contributions. Thank you very much.
Now, I need to be democratic here. Would you want us to run through very quickly the next session and then break for lunch? There isn't much to do, so that if you can have lunch and then that to be it for the day. Is that agreed? Yes. The ayes have it? There are no nays at all? No. Okay. So we should now take on the... Actually, there are two. One is really very short, it's just a presentation. So we'll take the mortgage and pension together. Is that agreed? Yes. Okay. I should have asked before now, but let me ask if Alhaji Gimba is in the audience, or is that a representation? Okay, thank you. Why don't you come to the podium? He will be chairing this session on mortgage. And the theme for the session is entrenching e-government for a vibrant mortgage market. Alhaji Gimba. please sit on the chairman's table. The chairman's seat, actually. We also have the managing director, FHA, Roland Ibinaba. Is he in the audience or is there a representation? Roland, is Roland in the audience? He should have been giving the lead presentation. Any word from Roland? There are two discussants, by the way, Mrs. Okolo Ebube, Director of Lands and Housing Development, Federal Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development. Is she in the audience? Is that Reverend Nabonjo? Okay. The Reverend gentleman will be speaking, discussing the paper that Mrs. Ibebe will discuss. That's correct. Okay. Then we have the retired director of the Federal Ministry of Lands, Mr. Tabansi. Mr. Tabansi in the hall. Please come to the podium. We were joined a while ago by Roland. Is that Roland? Yes. Roland, so you're making the new presentation right now. The other discussants. Chris Ada is in the hall. Is Chris in the hall? Chris is the other discussant, is the principal consultant, Chris Ada and Company Estate Surveyor. Is that Chris coming? Yes. Okay, please put your hands together for Chris. We will assist the speakers, moderators, discussants, and other facilitators with some aggressive timekeeping. Is the timekeeper in the hall? Could you just wait to know where you're sitting? Okay, he's got those marked papers. And I'd advise that you look in his direction so he can guide you as to how much time you have left. I'm told, actually, I wasn't told, I saw lunch being moved in. So we've got to wrap things up very quickly so we can then close for the day. So let me now leave you in the hands of the chair for this session, Alhaji Kumo Gimba. There is a roving microphone I'm going to pass on to him. You could use this or both, actually, or use the left hand.
Thank you very much. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, first of all, let me thank the Central Bank of Nigeria and this is 2020 for putting in place this 2015 eGovernment Summit. We just had the first session, which is the payment system. The session which I'm supposed to chair is entrenching e-government for a vibrant mortgage market process, sustainable housing delivery in a democratic dispensation. I was thinking that I put it for sustainable housing delivery in Nigeria, but since they chose to put democratic dispensation, it's still okay. A quick one is the status of the Nigerian housing stroke mortgage sector before I start calling on the discussion. You know, our home ownership rate is just 20%, compared to other African countries like Ghana, South Africa, that has 40%. Other developed countries have 70%. Our mortgage mortgage contribution to GDP is just less than 0.5% compared to 35% countries, 65% in developed countries. Our national housing deficit is said to be between 17 to 20 million housing units. And this we know, if we are building 1 million houses every year, it will take us like 20 years for us to close the already existing gap. So we are not talking of the other gaps that will be created from today up to 20 years to come. The housing situation is so bad, with the population growth of 2.8% and an urbanization growth of almost 4%. So, which means that the next few years about 50% of Nigerians will be living in the cities. The housing finance gap is almost 60 trillion naira. So that is almost more than 10 times the size of Nigerian budget. These are some of the highlights of the situation in the mortgage sector. Sustainability has too many functions tied to it, but we consistently believe that the production of e-governance should be able to drive that leg of sustainability. Without taking much of your time, I would want to call on the first discussant, Roland Ibenova, for the information. He has been a consultant for a very long time in the housing finance sector, and now he heads one of the mortgage banks in Nigeria, the Federal Housing Authority Mortgage Bank. This is his area, and I have no doubt that he is going to do justice to this the paper he is going to present to us. So, Mr. Roland, I hand over to you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'll need help with how this works. I'll need help with the slides.
Thank you, Pa. Where are you? Thank you, Pa.
When we'll be looking at an area that I would say I would consider very new in this part of the world. Today, I think if you look at the information and communication technology market, you will say, or it will reveal that Nigeria has, we have gone a long way in terms of ICT. Now, to then marry this with the mortgage sector is a totally different ballgame. So this is a very interesting topic, and also an area that the organizers are beginning to focus on. I think it will help the mortgage market in the country. Now, I'm going to be, I think I have about 15 slides. I don't know, can I get, I need to be able to run you through the slides.
Okay, you're on.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, I'm going to look at 3 areas, just as the chairman of the session has mentioned. We're looking at what are the keywords here, e-government. What is e-government? The mortgage market and sustainable housing delivery. Next slide, please. Now, it will be important to show a bit of relevant macroeconomics. Okay? Currently, we're the largest economy in Africa. I think that's no longer news. We recorded a GDP of over $1 billion, over $500 billion, right? That's at 2014. Basically, middle income economy and also a mixed economy. Next slide, please. Now, it is important that I give this background against mortgage markets and e-government. Fundamentals never change. Okay? For students of economics, there will always be supply and demand. So when you're building any industry, or when an industry is emerging, it can never emerge out of the basic fundamentals. So issues of unemployment will be factors. Inflation will be determinants to whatever is happening in that sector or in that industry. Okay? Resources, money supply, and all of that. Right? Now, the aggregate of this may fluctuate, but the truth is fundamentals never change. And especially when you deal in the mortgage sector, when you have transactions hovering a minimum of about 10 to 20 years. Next slide, please. Sorry, go back one more slide. I wish I really had the control myself. I'm trying to show, next slide, please, next slide. The state of housing in Nigeria, okay? I don't know if this is very visible, but when you descend down the Murtala International Airport, this is what you find. Do I have a witness? Okay? This is the state. Forget the Banana Island, the Ikoyi, the Victoria Island. Okay? But this is what you see. But if you're descending to Dubai, you see a different picture. Right? If you're descending Singapore, you see a different picture. Now, and that's why I say fundamentals never change. Right? There's an interesting saying that says that cities are built the way they are financed. Right? I'll say that again. Cities are built the way they are financed. So which means if I get long-term funding, okay, it means that I can engage in real estate or residential development projects and build cities that people, would be interested in. Okay? But if I have to save 15 years to build my house, that is what you find. So I get an upfront payment in year one. So I go to somewhere near Kefi to go and buy the plot of land. The next year, I do a substructure